There's really no doubt that the Hunger Games made dystopian a huge genre that most of us have read a lot in, almost to the point we're kind of sick of it. However, The Hunger Games was not the first dystopian thing I ever. I'm going to recommend 4 books to you that I read that are dystopian, that were dystopian before dystopian was cool. The first book I read that was dystopian is actually a 7-book series, and that is the Shadow Children series by Margaret Peterson Haddix. The first book in the series is Among the Hidden. It is a dystopian world where a food crisis has forbidden families from having more than 2 children, and every child after the second is called a shadow child and is basically kill on sight. This was the very first dystopian I read. This was my favorite series, probably prior to Harry Potter. The second dystopian I read is what a lot of people have read, and that is The Giver by Lois Lowry. This was a very love or hate it book. There's one person who holds all of the memories of the world, and in this city or town, and everyone else, they live a kind of black and white existence, doing exactly what they're supposed to do and stuff. And it's about the kid who has been chosen to become the receiver of these memories and what he goes through. It is 1984 by George Orwell. It's not the first dystopian, but it's kind of like the dystopian furthest back that the majority of the populace knows. And basically it's about a society where the government watches you all the time, and and if you deviate from what you're supposed to do, then they basically torture you into doing what they want you to do. It was a very dark story. I read it in it was part of my summer reading my senior year of high school. The final dystopian I have isn't so much a dystopian as a world falling into dystopia. I haven't finished the series yet, because the books are very long and there are 12 of them, but that is the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. This is a book about the rapture that happens in the Bible. In the first book, the rapture happens, people disappear, and it's the world falling into chaos, and while it is a very religious book, it is also very dystopian because the governments start to collapse and you have people taking over, and it's basically, I feel like this is a transitional series from where you have a world of order, like contemporary novels, and then you have dystopian where the world is falling apart, and this is what's picked up, and this is the series that's like in the middle where you're transitioning from one to the other. Series is the series where you're moving from the traditional government as we know it, and you're moving to the dystopian government, and in a way not very many and it's something that's unique to this series that doesn't really happen in any other dystopians. You actually see the decaying of one government and the taking over of another government that is clearly corrupt and flawed. So these are my 4 recommendations for dystopian works that preceded the Hunger Games in terms of the dystopian genre. I hate being sick.